Hey, I'm Jesse. Let's have a devotion. We're in Isaiah chapter 61. Yesterday, we saw the passage from which Jesus drew, reading it in the synagogue and proclaiming that passage from Isaiah fulfilled as people heard him read it right then and there. We're going to pick up in the next verse, a little farther beyond where Jesus left off, and you're going to see some incredible promises that come for the people of God. And I think that also Peter uses the same analogy to give us a New Testament application. They will rebuild the ancient ruins. They will restore the former devastations. They will renew the ruined cities, the devastations of many generations. Strangers will stand and feed your flocks, and foreigners will be your plowmen and vinedressers. But you will be called the Lord's priests. They will speak of you as ministers of our God. You will eat the wealth of the nations, and you will boast in their riches. In your place of shame, you will have a double portion. In place of disgrace, they will rejoice over their share. So they will possess double in their land, and eternal joy will be theirs. In 587 BC, the Babylonians would utterly devastate Jerusalem, and it was bad news. It was absolutely bad news. The surrounding villages were routed. Everything was destroyed. But this is a promise to rebuild, to restore the former devastations, to renew the ruined cities and devastations of many generations. And then verse 5 speaks of a complete reversal of what brought about the devastation in the first place. They would be completely overcome by foreign nations. But according to these verses, the inhabitants of those foreign nations would then turn and serve them. It speaks of a complete upheaval of their experience, going from being conquered and exile and destroyed. Now the destruction is reversed. Everything is rebuilt, and those foreign nations who once brought you into exile will now serve you. Strangers will stand and feed your flocks. Foreign will be your plowmen and vine dressers. Verse 6 is incredibly important. I think it bears a direct connection to an important New Testament passage. You will be called the Lord's priests. They will speak of you as ministers of our God. This, I think, is parallel to what God had said about Israel in Exodus, and also something that Peter speaks of in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his possession, so that you may proclaim the praises of the one who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. This sounds familiar if you've been tuning in with our Isaiah devotions, but this is a mosaic of other passages like Deuteronomy 7:6 and 10:15, Isaiah 43:20. Exodus 19:6, which we're going to look at in just a second, and Deuteronomy 4:20, Isaiah 43:21, 42:12. I mean, it's all there. Here's where this idea begins about the nation of Israel being a holy nation, a royal priesthood. Moses went up on the mountain to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, "This is what you must say to the house of Jacob and explain to the Israelites. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself." All right, see, I think it was Revelation 12 for a parallel to this. "Now, if you will carefully listen to me and keep my covenant, you will be my own possession out of all the peoples. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be my kingdom of priests and my holy nation. These are the words that you are to say to the Israelites." So Moses was told to convey this to the Israelites. It was something from way back, all right, before they had taken the land of Canaan for their own. This was spoken over them. You will be called the Lord's priests. They will speak of you as ministers of our God. It's important. Every member of every biblical New Testament church is also a minister. If your church has, say, 75 people, I think that would make it about the average size of a church in the U.S. If you have 75 people in your church, and all the ministry is left up to the pastor, right? Like I'm one of the pastors of the Redemption Church. Uh, that means that you have one minister. But if every member is a minister, that means that there are what, 76 ministers? Get this. This will turn some people's understanding of how the church works and what the pastorate is completely upside down, because they're not familiar with 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy and Titus and what they actually say. They've just inherited a tradition, and their church has always done it this way. Your pastor is not the one minister at your church. Everyone does ministry. In fact, it's not like a country club where you pay a tithe and that's like your dues, and then the pastor has to be at your beck and call and to be your friend, help you mediate a fight with your teenager, and his job is to come minister to you, and you complain if he doesn't minister to you because he's the minister. No, what the Bible actually says is that his job is to equip you for works of ministry, so the man of God may be equipped, completely equipped for every good work. This is what he actually does. This is what your pastor is actually told to do biblically. Now, does he minister as well? Of course he does. He ministers to you, and he also shares his faith outside. But he is assigned the task of equipping you to go and minister. If you expect your pastor to be the only one who ministers to everybody, then your church will never grow past 12 people, because that's about the maximum number of people that one man can actually minister to really well. But if your pastor does his job biblically, and that is to equip you to go out and do works of ministry, then there's no limit to the number of people to whom you can minister. This is how God actually designed the church. Back to the text, this was something that was spoken over Old Testament Israel, and this is something that Peter uses to also speak to us in the modern era, right? The New Testament church, a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his possession, so that you may proclaim the praises of the one who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. And then I just want to close by reiterating this. Look at how good our God is. This is the polar opposite of cancel culture, isn't it? In place of your shame, you will have a double portion. I believe this speaks to some prescribed practices for the firstborn son to receive a double portion of inheritance. We've seen that, it's vaguely alluded to in Genesis 48:22, Deuteronomy 21 verse 17, within context that could be used to interpret this verse. But what matters to me is that in place of your shame, you'll have a double portion. It means that you're not a disgrace before God. Right? In the New Testament sense, as those who have been atoned for in Christ, we can relate to this Old Testament verse. In place of disgrace, they will rejoice over their share. So the people who were coming to dominate you are now working for you. They used to be the ones who mocked you, but now they rejoice over the fact that they just get a piece of what God has given you. So they will possess double in their land, and eternal joy will be theirs. Look at what God does. This is beautiful. This is restorative. This is incredible. I pray that you are a minister in your church. You have a pastor, maybe pastors, maybe you have deacons and elders. But my prayer is that every member of your New Testament church, in the tradition of this Old Testament teaching, would be a minister.